Hello everyone, welcome back. In this tutorial we are going to learn about arrays. Arrays are one of the most fundamental types in the Java programming language. Before we dive into arrays, let's recall what were the two fundamentally different types of data. One was primitive types. You remember int, short, byte, long, etc. They were the primitive types of data. We also learned that everything else which is not primitive is a reference type. And the examples were classes, strings, arrays, enumerations, etc. So we are going to deep dive into arrays today. Let's understand what are arrays. For sake of simplicity, you can consider arrays as a container that is holding fixed number of values. And these values are of single type. The point to remember here is that all the elements, all the items in an array, they will be belonging to same type. And the length of the array is fixed during creation. That means whenever we are creating an array, we should know the size of the array. You remember any example of array till now? I hope you should, because in all our programs we always had a main method, and the main method used to take an argument of type string arrays. That was the first glimpse of array in our Java programming course. Also, in our previous lectures, we have also declared arrays which represent the list of integers. So to understand the terminology, learn that each item in an array is called element, and every element is accessed by its position, which is called index. So a diagram would help to understand this better. So here we have an array of 10 elements. Here the length of the array is 10. The starting index is 0 and the last index is 9. 0 to 9 are called indices of an array. And whenever we want to get a particular element in an array, we use its index. So an element at index 8 will be called A8. Let's see this in action. Let's say I want to declare an array of type integer. Now in order to declare an array, what we have to do is we have to give the type of an array followed by the brackets and then the name of an array, something like this. So this is the declaration of an array. How do you initialize? So there are two ways here. You can say that this array is an integer array of 5 elements. This will create an array and initialize it with the default values of integer. The other way is you can say an array is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is another way to initialize an array. Here, the size of the array is calculated using the number of elements here. Right? Now, let's say that I want to combine these two statements. So we can declare and initialize array on same line. I can say that Boolean array is equal to new Boolean right. This is the way we declare and initialize an array. If you want to initialize an array using some fixed values, let's say 1, 2, 3, this is another way to initialize an array. Here you don't specify the size, but depending upon number of elements you specify in initialization syntax, the Java compiler automatically finds out what is the size of the array. So how do you declare an array? We learned that we declare an array using the integer array syntax. There is another form of declaration where you can remove this from here and you can add here. This is also a valid declaration, but I would suggest you not to go with this mode of declaration. Always provide these brackets here. In order to initialize one-dimensional array, we saw that we have to specify size. Or we can also have a shortcut way of initialization, where depending upon number of elements in the initialization syntax, we can have the size initialized automatically. Let's talk about another type of arrays which are called multidimensional arrays. Multidimensional arrays are themselves are arrays where the elements are themselves arrays, which means we can also call them array of arrays. They are very essential in defining some data types like matrices. So when you have to declare a matrix, say 2x2 matrix or 5x5 matrix, in that scenario you can use multidimensional arrays. In order to declare a multidimensional array, we can use a syntax something like this. You can have a 3x3 matrix, and then you can initialize it using values like 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. So here I have declared a matrix. So we can just clear everything else, and we have to specify. We have declared a matrix, and let's understand how to access the elements. We can use our previous knowledge of for loops to declare a nested for loop. For example, if I 0 and I is less than 3, I plus plus, this is an outer loop which will iterate over the rows, and then we can have an internal loop int j is equal to 0, again j is less than 3, j plus plus, and then we can say so if we use a nested if over a multidimensional array, you should get some output something like this: 1 0 1 1 1 0 and 0 1 1. You can use some spaces to get a better output, and hence you can work with matrices. So these were the multidimensional arrays. In this tutorial we learned about how to declare an array, how to initialize array, and what are multidimensional arrays. This is just a surface knowledge about arrays. In our next tutorial we are going to learn more deep about arrays. So stay tuned.